Honourable Member for St. James North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will make a short intervention here in support of this bill, which, has been a long time in coming after 64 years after the act which it is repealing today. This bill is part of the transformational mandate that this government has embarked on, and I am very happy to be part of it today. I, in fact, sir, would have been born 60 years ago in a rum shop in the heart of the country, a village very little known in St. Joseph, Coconut Grove, sir. My grandmother was the owner of a village shop, which she would have, I believe, financed partly by monies as the honorable member for St. Michael East referred to, Panama money, because her husband, my grandfather, would have been one of those 40-odd thousand Barbadians who worked in Panama on the Panama Canal in the early part of last century. And my first year and a half was living in that village, and then when I came back from England for 2 years, I lived there as well. So I'm fully aware of the dynamics and the personality, sir, of a rum shop, and all the references that we've heard today, and that's part of the tradition and culture of Barbados. We know, sir, that laws were set up, certainly in pre-colonial times, to hinder black business and to make it as difficult as possible for black people to earn a living as self-employed people. And hence these laws, which we are tackling one by one. The law against vending, sir, one of them. And I look forward to the Honorable Minister who has presented this bill today, to him bringing the legislation, the bill to decriminalize vending, sir, and to in fact expunge the criminal records of those previously found guilty of vending. Simple acts of vending which have been criminalized in this country since the 18th century. So historical criminalization of a simple process whereby people are trying to enhance their circumstances and their economic well-being and that of their family. All of this is part of the facilitation of the working class in doing business. And the Barbados Labour Party's manifesto 2018 at page 33, of course, undertook that we will use the technology to improve the quality and speed of delivering high demand services. And this is one of them, sir, such as applying for and obtaining the liquor licenses and public entertainment licenses. And so I'm in support of the vast majority of what has been said today, so I'm not going to go over that, sir. I note that the Minister has the authority, as is normal under the Act, under the bill, to make regulations, and we look forward to those regulations being made. As is normally the case with these type of bills, sir, they will be laid by negative resolution in this Parliament. The issue, sir, of the age of majority being raised from 16 to 18 on the issue of being able to buy liquor and drink liquor is significant, sir, and of course, as former Minister of Home Affairs, under which the National Council of Substance Abuse falls, and we give credit to the National Council of Substance Abuse today, as other speakers have done. Clearly, this is an issue which addresses the mind of that council, sir, and this is important. Look, sir, anything in overindulgence is not good. And, you know, we are, yes, a culture that has engaged in liquor, and we are we're a country that has become famous not only because of cricket and music, but because of our production and manufacture of rum as well. But we urge here today, and I follow and I join with other members in urging the youth to be moderate in their participation of alcohol, sir. We're into the age of social media, and we all have seen photos within recent times, even during lockdown periods and pauses, of young people drinking whole bottles of whiskey and other forms of alcohol, and naturally, sir, consequentially, drunk as tail, falling down unconscious almost at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, under tremendous pressure now, sir, over the last 14 months, having to take invaluable and resources to go and pick them up. The attendants in all kind of COVID suits, you know, to take them to hospital. That this is foolishness, sir, that some of our young people indulging in for a bet to show that they're big, for their ego, and being encouraged by others too. And this has to stop, because we can, our health services and social services can be taking up time on these instances when they are already stretched to the boiler. Millions and millions and millions of dollars that we have had to expend, which we did not plan to expend over the last 14 months in dealing with this global pandemic. And I'm in full support, therefore, of the raising of the age, the drinking age from 16 to 18, sir. 18 is the recognized age of majority. That's the age that you can vote. That's the age that you can get married without your parents' consent, sir. And this bill speaks towards that and is in line with that whole issue. The administrative penalty, sir, of $10,000, again, is in keeping with the whole thrust of this administration to decriminalize certain acts and not allow a criminal record to be placed on an individual for something where there is perhaps non-violence, there is no victim, sir, other than the person who is harming himself or themselves, sir. And I'm therefore in support of that too. It's in fact described in the bill as an administrative penalty not exceeding $10,000. And this is important, sir, in this country, as we've spoken about, and as certainly I have spoken about in this Parliament on many occasions, where persons with criminal records find it extremely difficult to get a job, because I think it is about 85% of businesses require a criminal record on an application, or a free criminal record, a clean police certificate of character on an application for a job. But one issue that I wish to focus on, sir, on this bill which is before your honorable chambers, is the issue of the Liquor Licensing Tribunal and the authority, the Liquor Licensing Authority. As the honorable Minister, the member for St. James Central, said in his presentation of the bill, the Director of Consumer Affairs and Commerce is the director of the authority. And this authority, sir, when you examine the bill, has pretty extensive powers, which we certainly, sir, as parliamentarians, hope will be used with reasonableness, because they can suspend the license, they can revoke it, recall it, and so we hope that there is no arbitrariness in this, that principles of natural justice will be used, the right to be heard, etc., all of these administrative principles which, as you know well, sir, as a practicing attorney at law, have come into focus, especially in the last quarter century or so, because we can't afford for the taxpayers to have to be spending money on arbitrary decisions by bureaucrats, and therefore I would trust that these powers, in a way vast as it appears to me, sir, given to the liquor licensing authority and to the head of it, the director, will be used with reasonableness. The other issue, sir, on which I wish to speak before I take my seat, sir, the Liquor Licensing Tribunal, which of course oversees now the decisions on appeal of the authority. And that tribunal, sir, will consist of no less than 5 persons, as is normal in a lot of these tribunals, the employment right tribunals, severance payments tribunals, tribunals under the National Insurance Board. The chairman of the tribunal will be a lawyer, an attorney at law of at least 10 years standing. But what I was wondering, sir, they say that the Act says that no decision on a point of law should be made by the tribunal taking into account the opinion of those who are not attorneys at law. And I'm not so sure that I agree with that provision, sir, because in a lot of cases, those who are not constrained by legal knowledge and qualifications exercise greater common sense than those qualified in law when it comes to points of law. And there isn't that provision, for example, in the Employment Rights Act in relation to the tribunal under that Act. And therefore, I don't know if the Honourable Minister in his wrap-up would want to give the reason why that is so, why you're limiting decision-making authority on points of law falling within the purview of the Liquor License Tribunal to be decided only by those tribunal members who are qualified attorneys at law. And I say that too, sir, within the context of the following provision in the bill, which I agree with, that the tribunal may act without regard to technicalities and legal form, and shall not be bound to follow the rules of evidence as stipulated by the Evidence Act. And I certainly agree with that, sir, that tribunals such as the Liquor License Tribunal should not tie itself up in legal format and technicalities on issues such as these, but should look within other aspects of society to come to its decision. And all of this within the whole context that the decision of the tribunal is appealable to the High Court, where not only on issues of law, but also on issues of fact and law. So I am, again, reiterate, sir, in full support of this bill, which we expect to become part of the law of Barbados, sir. For too long, persons who sought to be entrepreneurs and small business people were fettered by previous parliaments, sir, in making it difficult to do business in this country. I mean, the fact that people had, and even now have to go to stand up in hot sun by a magistrate's court and wait for a magistrate to come who may or may not come before 10:30 in the morning, and then may or may not work more than a half an hour or an hour. And in some cases, you have to do that every week to get a license to sell liquor on a Saturday night, sir. I mean, it befuddles the mind that we have continued with this archaic system for so long. And therefore, the platform in this legislation whereby you can apply for and obtain a seasonal license for 3 months is innovative and noble and has to be commended. And the whole thrust of the legislation that you can apply online rather than have to go to different magistrates' courts to apply for a license, because you want to have a fete or an event down Bathsheba, and then you want to have one in Weston, and then you want to have one in Christchurch, and you got to go to 3 different courts to apply for license. Time wasting. And if it is one thing, sir, and this government at the end of this term would have taken credit for doing numerous, multiple things in terms of transformation of this society. But if it was one thing, Mr. Speaker, that this government must take credit for, it is to make the lives of ordinary Barbadians easier in terms of living and doing business and being able to operate, because it was just too difficult, sir, to exist in this country, and especially under the last government, whereby Barbados fell from being the 72nd country in the world among 190 countries in January 2008, when the last government took office, to moving down to about 139 out of the same 190 odd countries in terms of ease of doing business. Life too difficult in terms of applying for passports, which now online, sir, and I'm happy to have been part of that process. Applying for police certificates of character, which under the last government in 2017 took a whole 7 weeks, 2 months to obtain. By that time, the job that you're applying for gone. Now, in real time, apply and get it same day. So, police certificate of character. Again, the Ministry of Home Affairs, when I was minister, being part of that initial process, paying for your driver's license online now, sir, as I did last year, rather than have to go and stand up in hot sun again at a licensing authority for 2-3 hours, as you had to do before, to pay $50 to renew your driver's license. And all these processes, sir, others paying your taxes, whether it's income tax, VAT, land tax online, as I did last year, again with my land taxes. And this is part of what governance ought to be about, making life for your citizens, for the people who reside in your country, easier. And therefore, sir, this is a proud day for this lower house in debating this bill and in certainly as we expect this bill passing today in this lower house and in the other place in a very short while thereafter. I'm obliged to you, Mr. Speaker.